They certainly have been left very little choice. What's fascinating about this whole story is the Crown Prince, MBS is often known, until very recently was being lauded for his, sophistication and his determination to kind of introduce reforms and modernization, notwithstanding the detention of all those other Saudi royals in the Ritz-Carlton last year. But as my colleague Gillian Tett points out, what's fascinating is that for all the sophistication with which he manipulated opinion formers in the West, the Crown Prince failed to understand the impact of an action so brutal and brazen. That's the FT columnist. And I think that's really what many CEOs in the West are trying to get their heads around right now, because they have invested a lot of reputation and energy into cultivating the Saudis. There's been $1 billion worth of fees for Wall Street banks since 2010. There's been a lot of business on offer, but now they're dealing, frankly, with the consequence of having misread MBS and MBS having misread the rest of the world.
Yeah, Jamie, we just saw Andrew Ross Sorkin there speaking with Barry Diller, and Andrew wrote a pretty thoughtful story today in the New York Times about how difficult these decisions can be because of the ties that these CEOs and companies have to the kingdom. As Gillian was just talking about, JP Morgan has been working with Saudi Arabia since the 30s. BlackRock has long managed money for the central bank. Just because this is the right thing to do doesn't mean these are easy decisions for the long term.
Well, that's absolutely right. Look, what we're seeing is a course correction. For decades, the American companies have been working with Saudi Arabia and understanding they're dealing with a government whose way of doing business completely differs from the United States, going back to the days when people used to comment about how thieves get their hands cut off if they steal in a Saudi market. What's changing, though, is that after 9/11, American politics and American business began to affect each other. And, for example, most recently in Congress, the Saudi government lost an effort to stop a piece of legislation that would allow the families of victims to sue them. And they fought desperately, and the Obama administration fought to prevent that suit, and Congress overruled them. Congress is going to overrule the administration again. It's probably correct that Donald Trump will continue with business relatively as usual. He'll make some adjustments, but he will lose control of the Saudi file now. Congressmen, senators like Menendez and Rubio and others will now be in a position to win majority votes by making adjustments in arms sales, by affecting the U.S.-Saudi relationship, and that's a backlash. And it's a backlash for what Gillian said, because people really thought, some did anyway, that this was moving in a positive direction when the fundamentals hadn't changed that much.